So that's my sense. But then this came just the other day, so I'm sharing it because it literally came a couple days ago, and it was one of these things that somebody said something and suddenly this all appeared at once. They said, I'm really wanting to step into my power. And what occurred to me is, that's a bad idea in general. To aim at that is like one fell swoop of like, now I'm in my power. But I want to submit in business, power is the result of all these things together. And so and that also there are sort of powers and poisons here. So in terms of the power, I think with ethics, it's something about alignment. If you want to step into your power, which I mean, actually I do think is a good idea, big picture, but just aiming at that as I'm going to skip the equation and get to the answer, doesn't tend to work. Because first we have to start with this kind of alignment with whatever that is for you. For me, it would be conscience, or it could be your soul, spirit, whatever that is. But some kind of alignment. If you are out of alignment, you have no power. That's the end of the discussion. Yeah, you just don't have it. You don't have the spiritual oomph. I remember a friend of mine talking to me about, she went to a ceremony, and there was this medicine guy, and he comes in just t-shirt and shorts, not looking very impressive, drinking Coca-Cola, and she wanted to leave. Like, who the fuck is this joker? And then he sat down and he started, and she felt this energetic, whoa, and she just sort of sat up. It was visceral. It was like he just did something that I felt. And it wasn't the kind of Ericksonian effect of, oh, I just believe in him, because she'd written him off with a can of Coca-Cola. But then she felt something. And there's a kind of alignment. And people can feel it. And if you're out of alignment, you're also off rhythm. It's very hard to have any kind of power in your work when you are constantly maneuvering and having to remember how many times you lied to them. And, trying to get people to do this thing. Manipulating people. It's just I just think it's over. You have no chance at power. So the power is alignment, and the poison is you're just knotted up. You're all twisted up. Like the juice can't get through you. Can anyone think of somebody who, like, just at this level, the ethical level, like at the kind of spiritual level, has oomph, has this kind of power? Can anyone think of somebody like that, where it's like, man, you are just a tube? What are some names? Bless you. Carmen Spaniola, beautiful. Anyone else? You're just in a cult and you're ashamed you don't want to tell me. It's okay. One I can think of was Jane Goodall. I got to spend time with her. I ran the youth portion of something called the State of the World Forum for years, a few years. And she was one of these people, not like oomph, but when she walked in a room, you could feel the room gear down. She was just so comfortable in her own skin. She had this sweet energy about her that just, this kind of aura that just calmed everything down. It was so beautiful. Yeah. Okay. For niche, the power is place. There is something about being rooted in a place. This is my place in the community. This is where I stand. This is my role. This is my function. It's, it's like you're grounded. It's harder in martial arts. They talk a lot about that. Your hara, boom, and it's hard to knock people over when they're grounded. And the poison is, of course, people pleasing. You've got no place to be, because I got to be over here to make. And then I got to be over there later at 4:30 to make this happen. And this person, well, I got to give away my time to them at 7:30. Yeah, but having a sense of place. That's geographically, but also in terms of function. That is a sense of power. And if you don't have that, hard to have power. For point of view, I would call it heft. And I could do a 30-minute talk on the etymology of the word heft. But suffice it to say the word heft has roots in tradition, heath, heather, It's related to in Iceland. Or in northern England, they talk about hefting the sheep, and hefting the sheep means you bring the same sheep out to the same pasture and the same, every year. The new sheep get out there, and when they're born, their first time out in the mountain, they've been hefted. But we also talk about it as weight, as a sense of gravitas. So when we say somebody's words have heft, to me what this means is they've been to that place they're talking about. Yeah, they were out on the heath and the heather. This isn't a rumor. They didn't read a National Geographic magazine about it. They went there. And they've thought about it. And they're bringing back something from there to you. Yeah, they've articulated that into a point of view and a perspective. It's not theory. And I think that's the poison, is theory. It's just too, it's intellectualized. And this causes a lot of self-doubt, because I don't know. It's a theory, but I haven't been there. So with point of view, there's that kind of heft, which is connected, of course, to place. Our deepest wounds are often a doorway to our truest niche. But just being wounded is not helpful. I don't recommend being like, I'm really messed up in this area. That'll be my niche. It's that you've overcome it and you've learned something from it. And you've distilled that into something you can pass on. As Martin Shaw says, dipping your quill into the ink of your wound and writing from that helps nobody at all. Business model. I think the power is shelter. Here we are, it's raining, and we're inside. It's the world's rough. I don't know if you've all noticed. I have. It's a rough world. Maybe there's other dimensions that we get to visit. I don't think this is the easy one. I don't think this is the one where they're like, oh, have a great time on Earth. It'd be fine, no problems at all. This is a rough place to be. And so it's good to have shelter, because the world has a lot of slings and arrows, and if you don't have a place you can retreat to that shelters you in the rain, you will get ground down by the weather. You just will. The environment is stronger than you. Period. So a business model gives you shelter. It's very much, I said earlier, it's like having a lean-to versus having a log cabin. That's what business model is. It provides you shelter from the climate and the weather. And the sort of poison is just overexposure. It's the old joke artists say. It's like, hey, you should do this gig, you get good exposure. Well, you can die of exposure. You can. And with hubs, I think the power is kinship. It's worth noting the word indigenous, which is not even what indigenous people use for themselves, the English word, but still useful. It has that G-E-N in it, indigen, as the same as genetics, genus, yeah? And it means like from a people. And there's something, if you see people who are rooted in an intact culture, there's an immense amount of swagger. Where does the swagger come from? Well, all these things. But also it comes from having your people behind you. Knowing that you're a part of a crew. You just are going to feel more confident if you have a crew. And the sort of poison version is the lone wolf. I'll just do everything on my own. I'll just be real lonely and self-sufficient. Yeah. So you can see, if you're going from this place of you're all knotted up, you're people-pleasing, you're talking about theory, you're exposed to the elements all the time as a lone wolf, you're not going to last long. But if you're in alignment, you're just, tapped into your conscience or your soul, you have a place to stand, you're speaking with some heft because you've really thought about the places you've been and you brought something back from it. You have shelter for when life gets rough. And then you also have this kinship. Then you're in your power. Yeah, I just consider being in your power a kind of epiphenomenon of these things, not the direct phenomenon, not the thing to aim at. It's the kind of equals in your power. And that's the formula.